Okay, so picture this. It's December 4th, 1872. You're aboard the British brigantine Dei Gratia, about 400 miles east of the Azores, when something catches your eyes on the horizon. There's a ship. It's listing, it's drifting, her sails are torn, her rigging is a mess. You watch her for 2 hours, waiting for someone to appear on the deck. You're waiting for a signal, a wave, anything, but you get nothing. So you launch a boarding party. 3 men row across the choppy Atlantic waters. They climb aboard and discover nobody, not a soul. 10 people were supposed to be on this ship. A captain, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter, and 7 experienced sailors. They've all vanished, gone, as if they simply evaporated into the salt air.
The cargo's still there. Over 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol, nearly all intact. There's 6 months' worth of food and fresh water. Personal belongings sit undisturbed in the cabins. In the captain's quarters, a child's toys are scattered about. A tiny impression remains in the bedding of the baby's crib. The last entry in the ship's log? November 25th, 9 days earlier, noting their position as just 6 miles from Santa Maria Island and the Azores. And what happened in those 9 days? Where did they go? And why would anyone abandon a perfectly seaworthy ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean? 152 years later, we still don't know.
Welcome to Mugshot Mysteries. I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Kathryn. And today we're diving into one of the most enduring maritime mysteries in history, the case of the Mary Celeste.
Sneaky footsteps in the night, clues that vanish out of sight. Grab your hat and magnifying glass. We'll talk this case and have a blast. Mugshot Mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know.
Now, I know what you're thinking. You're like, Gabriel, hasn't everyone done the Mary Celeste? Isn't this the most covered ghost ship story of all time?
Wasn't exactly thinking that at all.
Well, that's how you talk, by the way. No. Well, regardless, you think a lot of things. And you usually think them all at the same time. And you weren't thinking that. Okay. So here's the thing. Most people only know the legend, the sensationalized version. Tables set with the warm food, a cat meowing below deck, a child's blocks arranged as if they were just playing. All of that was made up. So sorry, folks. This is all fiction. It's all derivative. It was invented by writers and newspapers. Liars, all of them.
Yeah, including the fun fact, right? A young doctor named Arthur Conan Doyle. And yes, that Arthur Conan Doyle, Sherlock Holmes himself. Well, his creator. He wrote a fictionalized version of the Mary Celeste story in 1884 that got so many details wrong that people still repeat them as fact today. He even spelt the ship's name wrong, called it the Mary Celeste. And that misspelling sucks so hard that people still use that. So today we're going back to the original sources, the court records from the Gibraltar salvage hearing, the actual ship's logs, letters from Captain Briggs and his wife, and some fascinating modern scientific investigations that offered the most plausible explanation yet for what happened that fateful night in November of 1872. We're doing the legwork because here at Mugshot Mysteries, we're at least B- students.
So I will let you know, I got like a 3.2.
Okay.
Which is pretty sure that's better than a B-.
I don't remember.
That's like a B you can be proud of. So did I ever tell you what my dad told me?
Your dad has probably said a lot.
Well, yeah, but he was like, son, just so you know, a B is average. You should never be happy to get a B. A B, you know what that's going to lead to?
What's that going to lead
to? Mystery podcast one day. No.
Wow, Dad.
I'm sure, well, there weren't podcasts back then, but yeah. I'm just sure that he's proud of me that I'm not on OnlyFans. But yeah, damn it,
but
American schools.
Wait a minute. You might make more money on OnlyFans. What would your thing be?
No, I can't.
What would your thing be?
I can't tell you what my thing would be.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
So let's start at the very beginning. Because this ship's history is almost as strange as her disappearing crew. So the ship that would become the Mary Celeste was originally named the Amazon.
Ooh.
Yeah. So she was built in 1861 in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia.
So this is like a tiny shipbuilding community on the shores of Bay of Fundy.
And right from the start, this ship had problems, man. So during the launch, some accounts say she refused to budge from her perch. So workers struggled to get her into the water for the very first time.
Oh,
Yeah,
that sounds like a bad omen.
I would say so.
Then, on her maiden voyage, the first captain, Robert McClellan, well, he got pneumonia.
Oof.
So he died before he even completed the journey. So, dead captain on the first trip. That's not great. Now, I would tell you, and you know this to be true, my mom would have told me that he was going to catch pneumonia because he probably went out without a jacket and it was like 65 degrees. He was doomed from the beginning.
Okay, bad omen number 2, but let me just say your mom has asked me this exact question before.
She'll give you a jacket.
Oh, no.
She has just
Listen.
closet of jackets she gives to people that go out in mildly cold weather.
It's true. This is what she told me. And by the way, what she finds cold and what I find cold, 2 wildly different things. But she asked me, Kathryn, where is your jacket? I said, oh, it's back home. And she's like, oh, I'm glad to know it's keeping the house warm. Like, wow. I appreciated that sarcasm. I love her.
Well,
She's
just so you know, you might go home with my 1994 All-Star jacket, okay? You
yes.
just might.
I've seen some interesting jackets in their collection, by the way.
There's a lot.
Some that have made me Google. Anyway, sorry, can't continue.
Okay. So he was doomed, and that was bad omen number 2. So the replacement captain took over, and he completed the voyage. So good for him. And he went to London. But on the return trip, she crashed into another ship in the English Channel.
So bad omen number 3, are we keeping count?
Yes, we are. As a man, just so you know, I can overlook red flags pretty well.
Wow.
Yeah, just to let you know, I could have fixed that ship. So anyways, in 1867, she ran aground during a storm off Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia. So the damage was so extensive that her owners declared her too expensive to repair.
That's rude.
Yeah, they just abandoned her. And again, I could have fixed her.
Too expensive, though. Is that rude or is that a compliment? So, yes, that whole thing is ridiculous. And that has to be, what, bad omen number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a salvager named Alexander McBean claimed the wreck as abandoned property and sold it to an American named Richard Haynes. Haynes patched her up and registered her under American ownership and, hoping to change her luck, gave her a brand new name, the Mary Celeste.
So, and you know that's really a thing, right?
Is it?
Yeah. So they just renamed the ships.
Is it like when you adopt a cat and you're just like, I don't think that looks like a snowflake, and so I'm going to call it...
Yeah, I'm going to call her Killer. Yeah. No, you just rename like the ships and then like all of a sudden the luck's going to switch. So that's like a classic maritime trick. It's also, like an aspiring actor trick, like Nick Cage.
Excuse you. We don't talk ill of Nick Cage.
I was just saying he's really not Nick Cage. Surprisingly.
Anyway, spoiler alert, it didn't work.
He's the nephew of Ford Coppola.
I know.
Yeah. So yeah, spoiler, it didn't work. So Haynes runs into financial troubles. Some say from philandering, some say from the booze. And I don't know if any of that's true, but it sounds better.
Sure.
But either way, he lost the ship. So she changes hands again, undergoing major renovations until 1872, when she's acquired by New York businessmen. And this is James Winchester and a sea captain looking for his next command.
That's regal.
Yes.
So he finds his next command, and that is Captain Benjamin Spooner Briggs, who sounds like an aspiring actor or a BYU football player. So tell us about him.
So yeah, middle linebacker Benjamin Briggs was the kind of captain you want running your ship. So this guy was born in 1835 in Wareham, Massachusetts. So this guy, he comes from like a long line of seafaring men. So father was a captain. 4 of his 5 brothers also went to sea. This guy ate barnacles. He spat ocean spray. He pissed probably a lot of rum.
Oh my God. Are you done talking like that?
I mean, I'm done now, but I've had like 2 energy drinks, so I may have to keep going soon.
Okay. I apologize to literally every human being that is listening to this. Ugh. So let me take you back to Captain Briggs. The sea was literally in his blood, and he started sailing as a cabin boy at 16 and worked his way up, eventually commanding several vessels, including the brigantine Seafoam and the schooner Forest King. He was also deeply religious, a devout Christian, and a believer in abstinence. So his crews respected him. He was known as firm but fair, and exactly the temperament you'd want from a ship's captain on long voyages. In 1862, he married his cousin. Well, okay, which I know sounds weird today to most, but was pretty common back then, we swear. And I'm sure their descendants do too. But her name was Sarah Elizabeth Cobb, and she was the daughter of a congregational minister. And here's the really sweet detail. According to Marion Town records, Benjamin and Sarah had been boy and girl sweethearts. It was love at second cousins.
Oh, I see what you did there.
Yeah. So for their honeymoon, which I know we're all excited to talk about, they sailed to Europe together on the Forest King. And Sarah wasn't a stranger to life at sea either. She frequently accompanied Benjamin on his voyages. They had 2 children, Arthur, born in 1865, and Sophia Matilda, born on October 31st, 1870. And she was just 2 years old when the Mary Celeste set sail. Now, note that she's a Halloween baby, which clearly has to be a bad omen or something, but let's just say it meant something.
I think every time there's a Halloween baby, it means something. So, fact, by 1871, Benjamin was actually considering getting out of this whole sailing business altogether. So he and his brother, Oliver, were looking at buying a hardware store in New Bedford. So they totally wanted to do like the settle down, spend more time with their growing families. They wanted the 9 to 5, the Ford Taurus, the mortgage payment, maybe something softball related.
I had a Ford Taurus.
What color was it?
It was like a silvery blue. And
I just figured it'd be pink.
No, that was the Probe, but my Taurus protected me from my bad accident.
No, good job, Ford Taurus.
Go Ford Taurus.
They don't make them like they used to.
No, they don't.
And you don't see them anymore because they didn't make them very well either.
Anyhow, they couldn't quite pull the trigger on it. Their father had once tried to leave the sea for a land-based business, which is an amazing way to say a business type in general, and it really didn't go well. So instead, Benjamin invested his life savings, about 1/3 of the cost, into purchasing a share of the Mary Celeste.
Yeah, he definitely ignored all the red flags.
You men and those red flags.
So let's just say the Mary Celeste started to become unfaithful.
Ooh.
So he spent time overseeing renovations to the ship. They modified the cabin to make it more suitable for his family. So he had a harmonium brought aboard.
Fancy.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that's like a small organ.
Oh, Pirates of the Caribbean. They had that.
Well, there you go. They were playing the harmonium. And so Sarah could play the music. So he made sure there were toys for little Sophia, high chair, all the comforts of home. So he went from being like, I'm out of this game. And he was like, well, I got to put my money somewhere. And he put it on the wrong horse.
Yeah, because this wasn't just a business venture for Benjamin Briggs. This was supposed to be a family adventure. One more voyage before settling down for good, supposedly. Their 7-year-old son, Arthur, was left behind with his grandmother at Rose Cottage in Marion, Massachusetts, because he had to stay behind for school. And that decision, leaving Arthur behind, is the only reason the Briggs family line continued.
Oh, that's dark.
Yeah, because he would never see his parents or, his baby sister again.
So Captain Briggs personally selected every single man who would sail with him on the Mary Celeste. So this goes to prove that even in those days, it was still who you know that got you the job. So presumably, the guy went for very experienced, reliable sailors. Probably didn't hurt if they could bench a lot. His first mate was Albert Richardson, and this guy was 28 years old. He was an American and an experienced seaman. Richardson was actually related by marriage to James Winchester, one of the ship's owners. So he definitely had like extra incentive to ensure this voyage went smoothly. So like I can
version
imagine,
of nepotism.
Well, exactly. Well, it also goes to prove that nepotism is still how you get a job. So yeah, so like this guy was obviously spying, right? So like I imagine he was just running around eyeing everyone suspiciously, writing a little black book. So the second mate was Andrew Gilling, and this guy was a 25-year-old Dane.
Ooh.
Then there was Edward William Head, 23, and this guy was the steward and the cook. He also was American, which is germane to say because Americans?
So you got the Americans, and I got the 4 remaining seamen who were all Germans from the Frisian Islands.
Mm-hmm. Now you got to say all their names, right? You got the Russian names in the last one.
If you guys haven't listened to the Dyatlov Pass incident, enjoy that. So first up, we got Volker Lorenzen, and he was age 29. His younger brother, Boz Lorenzen, was 23.
Oh, he sounds like a BYU linebacker too.
Actually, kind of does, huh?
Good job, Boz.
Well, then we have Ariane Martins, who's 35, and Gottlieb Gondeschall, also 23. I like that name the most. Now, Sarah Briggs, in a letter to her mother before departure, described the crew as peaceful and first-class sailors. Captain Briggs himself wrote to his mother saying he was eminently satisfied with both ship and crew. So we've got 10 people aboard total. Captain Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 experienced, well-regarded sailors. Not a troublemaker among them.
So this sounds like a fantastic start, right?
I would think.
On October 20th, 1872, Captain Briggs arrives at Pier 50, not a club, on the East River in New York City to oversee the loading of cargo. So there's 1,701 barrels of denatured industrial alcohol worth about $35,000 at the time, which is roughly $1 million in today's money.
Oof.
Yeah, that's a lot of hooch. So let me go ahead and discuss this for those who've never heard of denatured alcohol.
I'm one of them.
Okay. It's just alcohol, right? Starts as alcohol. You can drink this.
Mm-hmm.
But since they don't want people drinking this alcohol, they just add a bunch of really horrible chemicals and they basically make it poison.
Ooh.
So this may come up later. The takeaway, this is not supposed to be drunk like 12-pack of Coors Light.
All right. I have more questions about that, but I'm going to continue the story. So the alcohol was being shipped to Genoa, Italy, where it would be used to fortify wine. And yes, that was a thing. The Italians would add industrial alcohol to strengthen their wines, which, important note, this was denatured alcohol. So it had additives that made it poisonous to drink. So any theory about the crew getting drunk and going on a murderous rampage, dead on arrival. On Sunday, November 3rd, Briggs wrote to his mother, "Our vessel is in beautiful trim, and I hope we shall see a fine passage." And 2 days later, on Tuesday, November 5th, 1872, they left Pier 50, not the club, and moved into the New York harbor.
So at that time, the bad weather there forced them to anchor at Staten Island for 2 more days. And I'd like to think that they got a short-term land job called getting drunk off real alcohol. So finally, on November 7th, they set sail for Genoa, Italy.
Meanwhile, in Hoboken, New Jersey, another ship was preparing to depart. The Canadian brigantine Dei Gratia under Captain David Morehouse. She was also heading to Europe, carrying a cargo of petroleum.
So now some accounts suggest that Briggs and Morehouse knew each other, so possibly even had a dinner together the night before Briggs sailed. So that's never been definitively confirmed, but they certainly moved in the same maritime circles, whether or not they did some circles in bed that night.
Oh my gosh. Bruh.
Just making up stories.
This is a BYU ship. Stop. The Dei Gratia left 8 days after the Mary Celeste, on November 15th, following essentially the same route across the Atlantic. And under normal circumstances, she should never have caught up to the Mary Celeste. If everything was okay, this would have been another ho-hum adventure.
But, as Marcellus Wallace may have said, they were pretty fucking far from okay.
Yeah, that's true. What do we actually know about the Mary Celeste's voyage? Frustratingly little. The original ship's log was lost when the Mary Celeste was deliberately wrecked in 1885, but more on that later. But what we do have are notes taken by Attorney General Frederick Soley Flood during the Gibraltar Inquiry, documenting those final entries. And the early log entries showed steady progress under initially calm conditions. And then the weather turned. Oh my God, I'm singing Gilligan's Island. The weather started getting rough, right? Clearly that's what the show is based off of.
You live your life through song.
Sorry. Briggs noted heavy weather as they crossed the Atlantic. And on November 24th, according to the log, Briggs changed direction, heading directly for the Santa Maria Island in the Azores, the last landfall the ship would make before reaching Europe. The last entry in the ship's log was dated November 25th at 5 a.m. It noted their position as about 6 nautical miles from the eastern point of the Santa Maria Island.
So here's a crucial detail that's come out from modern research. The Mary Celeste was actually, and get this, about 120 miles west of where Captain Briggs thought she was. His chronometer, a vital navigation instrument.
Thanks for telling me that.
Yeah, it appears to have been faulty. So besides sounding like something from a Philip K. Dick novel, a chronometer is actually, probably actually isn't the right word. It is very important.
Seems
so
fake.
Either they got to bum one at the chronometer store or get this. Ghost, aliens?
Oh, convincing me of ghosts is about as hard as convincing me that I need a foot rub, and I'm a sure thing. So, Briggs had been expecting to see land for 3 days before that final log entry. And can you imagine the stress he must have been under? Like, you're out on the open ocean, heavy weather, a faulty chronometer, and it's telling you that land should be right there. And you see nothing but endless water.
It's terrifying. So between November 25th and December 4th, when the Dei Gratia found her, 9 days had passed. 9 days in which something happened. 9 days in which something so terrible or scary or horrible or horrific, something happened that caused everyone aboard to abandon that nice, very comfortable and warm ship.
The Mary Celeste was found roughly 400 nautical miles from where the last log entry placed her. And 9 days, completely unmanned, she had continued sailing, essentially on autopilot, for hundreds of miles. She was a ghost ship, which, by the way, isn't as impossible as it sounds. Ships can drift and sail for remarkable distances without crew.
Which is terrifying.
A little bit. And there's a documented case from, I think, 1888, 1889, where a vessel called the William L. White drifted unmanned for over 5,000 nautical miles over the period of 10 months. Which kind of calls into question the need of the captain and the crew in general, I'm just saying.
Overpaid. So something did happen on or shortly after November 25th. Something, again, that made an experienced captain who was very careful, religious, pious, family man with his wife and his baby aboard. He decided that his best option was to get into a small lifeboat and then just abandon the ship. So that's the question at the heart of everything, really. What could possibly convince Benjamin Briggs that a tiny lifeboat in the North Atlantic in late, cold-ass November was safer than his fully provisioned and seaworthy ship? Remember, this thing was kind of decked out. Abandoning this ship was categorically the last thing they wanted to do. This was like trading in a Benz for a Civic, you know? Like, it might steer better, but leather seats, this thing did not have.
Wow. December 4th, 1872, the Dei Gratia is sailing toward the Strait of Gibraltar when a lookout spots something on the horizon. A ship listing slightly and sailing erratically. Her sails are in rough shape. Some are torn, others are flapping loose, and no one appears on deck. Captain Morehouse immediately recognizes the name on the stern, the Mary Celeste, and he watches her for 2 hours. No response to signals, no sign of life. And finally, he sends his first mate, Oliver DeVoe, and 2 sailors, one named John Wright, and a small boat to investigate.
Okay, so what DeVoe found was deeply unsettling. So imagine this. The ship is completely deserted, but otherwise intact. So here's the things that they noted. The main hatch was secured, but 2 smaller hatches were open. Their covers were lying beside them on the deck. One of the ship's pumps had been disassembled. Now, the parts were just like lying on the deck as if somebody was trying to repair or clean it, or like me, just left half-done jobs everywhere. So a sounding rod, which is a tool used to measure watering depth in the hull, was found on the deck. This is pretty significant because you use a sounding rod when you're worried about how much water is getting into your ship.
Ooh, Titanic.
Well, here's the thing. When they checked the hold, there was about 3.5 feet of water. Now, again, that sounds like a lot, but for a ship that was that big, after weeks at sea in rough weather, presumably, it wasn't actually that alarming. So DeVoe would actually later testify that this ship was ready to go. It was absolutely seaworthy. So again, the Ghost definitely had been taking good care of it.
Good job, Ghost.
Yeah.
Well, something else is broken. The ship's compass was broken, knocked out of its binnacle, which is the wooden stand that holds it. The binnacle itself had shifted. So the captain's chronometer was missing. So was the ship's sextant and the navigation book. These were essential tools for knowing where you were at sea. But here's what wasn't missing: the ship's register, the cargo manifest, personal belongings. Sarah Briggs' Melodin, her little organ, was still in the cabin. Little Sophia's toys were scattered about. Clothing hung in the wardrobes. Valuables remained untouched.
Well, and what was most important, and I think most damning, was that the ship's only lifeboat was gone. So the ropes and the pulleys that are used to lower and raise the lifeboat show that it had been properly deployed. It was not torn away by a wave or a storm for sure. This was not like that Dietlov Pass story. They seemed to be in no hurry whatsoever.
And there was one other detail that caught investigators' attention. A length of rope was found trailing over the stern of the ship into the water. And some investigators believe this was a tow line, that the lifeboat had been tethered to the Mary Celeste, perhaps so the crew could wait at a safe distance and then reboard once danger had passed.
So, if so, the line either broke or came loose, and the Mary Celeste, with her sails still partially set, simply sailed away from them. So I just imagine them screaming something to the equivalent of Wilson, Wilson, like as this thing jetted away. Because could you imagine being in the middle of water and more water and like the ghosts just up and stole your ship?
No.
Or maybe they just wanted to get off for a bit. Maybe they saw some dolphins. Maybe they saw some killer whales. Oh, you don't think the killer whales could have?
No. Stop. This isn't Jaws, which is a shark. So it's not a really good comparison, but possible. I don't know what's in the Atlantic.
Terrors in the Atlantic.
Clearly. So the ship leaves 10 people in a small boat in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, watching their ship disappear over the horizon.
Okay, so let's talk about the investigation. Captain Morehouse made a decision. He assigned 3 of his men, including First Mate DeVoe, to sail the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, while he continued on the Dei Gratia. There was money to be made in these kind of salvage claims, and Morehouse definitely intended to collect this money. So remember, there's $1 million of hooch that those sailors can't even drink. So it's definitely going to be there when they get there.
By the way, you couldn't have convinced me to get on that damn ghost ship once it showed up. That just wouldn't happen. But these people were convinced, I guess, because both ships arrived in Gibraltar in mid-December, and that's kind of when things got complicated, or more complicated than it's been so far. The Vice Admiralty Corps opened an inquiry to determine what had happened, and more importantly, whether anyone should be paid for salvaging the Mary Celeste.
Oh, they're trying to withhold money. So surprising. So the man leading the investigation was an attorney. His name was General Frederick Solly Flood. Yes, Flood. Anyway, Solly Flood had to do...
I just got that.
How do I put this delicately? This guy was really determined to find some kind of foul play, even if he had to make it up.
Lord.
Again, we like to find answers. We also crave attention as human beings. We also like money. And he apparently thought this story was going to give him that. So he got creative. This is yellow journalism at its best.
He became convinced that the crew of the Dei Gratia had murdered everyone aboard the Mary Celeste to claim the salvage money. It was a compelling theory. Morehouse's crew stood to profit enormously from finding the abandoned ship.
So Solly Flood ordered a detailed inspection of the Mary Celeste. There was a diver named Ricardo Portanato, and he examined the hull underwater. There was no damage. A surveyor named John Austin went over every inch of the ship looking for any evidence of violence, bloodshed. As I like to pronounce, they were searching for felonious behavior.
Well, here's where the legend starts to get a little embellished. Austin found a cutlass, which is a type of a sword, in Captain Briggs's cabin. On it, Solly Flood claimed to see bloodstains.
He also reported finding suspicious cuts on the ship's rails that might have been made by an axe, and reddish-brown stains on the deck that he insisted were blood.
Not rust.
An axe murderer, no. Michael Myers type stuff. Murder, conspiracy. A drunken crew that had attacked the ship and his family, all boozed up on the bath salt equivalent of rum and denatured alcohol. Except none of it held up. 100% bullshit. When scientists actually analyzed the stains on the sword, do you think there was blood on it?
No.
Of course not. When they tested the deck stains, think that was blood?
No.
No. The marks on the rail were just consistent with normal wear and tear on a normal working ship. So no evidence of an axe attack, no visit from Jason Voorhees.
Although I am thinking October 31st is coming back.
Let's see.
Well, in 1943, the Arizona Republic would conclusively report that the supposed blood stains were actually just rust, which is what I was claiming before. A sword covered in rust tucked neatly under a bed. Not exactly the calling card of a violent attack.
Certainly boring story though, right?
Yeah, one would sell books and one wouldn't. So Sully Flood's theories just kept getting shot down. James Winchester, one of the ship's owners, arrived in Gibraltar to defend the reputation of Captain Briggs. He testified to Briggs's high character and insisted his friend would never have abandoned ship except in absolute extremity.
Do you know what else he wouldn't abandon? That A gap when he was playing San Diego State.
We don't like BYU. The inquiry dragged on for 3 months, and in the end, they couldn't prove any foul play. The court eventually awarded the Dei Gratia crew a salvage payment, but only 1,700 euros, which is about 1/5 of the total value of the ship and cargo.
So now, like, on one hand, I'm with them because they made all of this up. On the other hand, they obviously just don't want to pay them. So I'm kind of conflicted. Now, that was obviously way less than they expected. So normally, if you bring in this derelict ship, that would earn you 2 or even 3 times that amount. So the low payment was essentially the court saying, well, we can't prove you did anything wrong, but we also don't trust you. So this cloud of suspicion, it would follow Captain Morehouse and his crew for the rest of their lives. They'd been proven innocent, but in the court of public opinion,
The only one that matters.
they remain forever under suspicion. And as you can tell, none of that happens today. So let's talk about theories, Kathryn, because over the last 150 years, people have suggested some truly and wild explanations for what happened aboard the Mary Celeste.
Okay, well, so let's start with the most obvious one. Yo ho, a pirate's life for me. Classic explanation. Pirates boarded the ship, killed everyone, and fled.
Which I love. However, pirates, by definition, take things. They want things. Unless, again, it was ghost pirates who take souls. No, but for real, the cargo was untouched. Personal valuables were still there. No signs of struggle. There was no blood. There was no evidence of violence. And, very interesting fact, the Azores region had a strong British naval presence in 1872. Piracy in those waters were extremely rare. Not when the British were busy in their imperial business did they want pirates messing up their stuff. As you saw in the Pirates of the Caribbean, they're the bad guys and wear red.
Debunked.
Yeah.
Next, mutiny.
Classic.
The crew got drunk on the alcohol, murder the captain and his family, and escape.
Okay, and several problems here. First, the alcohol was denatured. Again, drinking it would make you violently ill, possibly kill you. Though I'm sure that hasn't stopped a whole lot of shaky individuals in the past. Second, Captain Briggs was respected by his crews, right? And third, these weren't random sailors he picked up off the street. They were experienced professionals with good reputations, even the Americans. And fourth, if mutiny was successful, you take the ship. You don't abandon it because, again, that's like really anti-mutiny behavior.
Fine. Debunked. What about insurance fraud? The ship's owners arranged the whole thing to collect insurance money.
Which, again, was a theory that was investigated during the Gibraltar inquiry. So Winchester was cleared. Also, the cargo. Over $1 million in today's money of poison booze. That arrived safely in Genoa. If committing insurance fraud, you don't deliver the cargo. Again, very anti-fraud behavior.
Fine.
Or they're really bad at it.
Fine. Debunked. Let's get weird. Giant squid attack.
Okay. So this has been proposed seriously with a straight face, right? Maybe it was a very drunk face, but very straight. Now, yes, a massive sea creature attacked the ship, snatched everyone off the deck like a giant kraken. It's as plausible as ghost pirates or aliens.
Yeah.
So let's market that one a maybe.
Except the lifeboat was properly deployed. And if a sea monster grabbed you off the deck, you wouldn't have had time to carefully lower the lifeboat, take the navigational instruments, and then row away.
We'll mark that debunked. How about the Bermuda Triangle theory.
I mean, I thought that right away, obviously. The Mary Celeste was found off the Azores, and that's in the eastern Atlantic. The Bermuda Triangle is in the western Atlantic, which is thousands of miles away. Unfortunately, geography is a thing.
So, debunked again. This could have been aliens.
Love it.
What do you think?
Love it. Except if it was, we don't have any proof. So yes, mark it a maybe, but probably not.
Probably yes, no. Okay, so fair enough. So, do you know there was a Doctor Who episode that blamed the Daleks? I won't make Doctor Who fans mad since I don't know who that is. But I do know that I was told that there was an episode that blamed the Daleks.
I'm sorry to Doctor Who fans because I haven't seen the show, but I'm here for it.
I've been told about it.
Yeah.
Okay. I hear about it a lot. Do you know how you know somebody's a Doctor Who fan?
They'll tell you.
Oh, yeah, they'll tell you.
Just like CrossFitters. What about waterspouts? Those are real.
Mm-hmm.
A tornado at sea could theoretically sweep people overboard. It's crazy weather, hurricanes, rogue waves, wake from the alien spacecraft.
Which is all possible, right? But again, lifeboat deployed properly. Navigation instrument taken.
Facts.
They abandoned this very orderly. That's the weirdest part. So no people suddenly being swept away by a sudden disaster.
Then what does that leave us with?
So the most credible theories all have one thing in common. Captain Briggs believed incorrectly that his ship was in an imminent danger. So he made the very rational decision to evacuate based on information that obviously turned out to be wrong.
Okay, so let's break down the leading theories that modern investigators and historians actually take seriously, not aliens.
All right, theory number one, the alcohol explosion.
Ooh.
This is a theory that got the biggest boost from modern science. The cargo was, again, 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol. When the ship was found, 9 of those barrels were completely empty.
Oh.
By all accounts, that's too much for even sailors to have spiked the wine with.
And here's a crucial detail. Those 9 empty barrels were made of red oak, while all the other barrels were made of white oak. Red oak is more porous, and it allows vapors to seep through.
So the theory is, over the course of the voyage, these fumes gradually leaked from those red oak barrels, and they accumulate in the cargo hold. The atmosphere down there becomes increasingly volatile.
So one spark, maybe from a sailor's pipe, maybe 2 barrels rubbing together, and you'd have an explosion.
Science, bitch. No, but wait, you're thinking, if there was an explosion, why wasn't the ship damaged? That's what I thought. Why weren't the barrels scorched? How could you possibly hide a giant explosion? That's exactly what the skeptics and this guy right here wondered incredulously.
Until 2006. And that's when Dr. Andrea Sella, a chemist at the University College London, decided to put this theory to the test.
So Dr. Sella built a scale replica of the Mary Celeste cargo hold. He used paper cubes to represent the barrels, filled the space with butane gas to simulate alcohol vapor. Then he lit it, probably while manically laughing.
Totally. And the result? A massive explosion. A spectacular ball of flame shot upward, and the pressure wave was enormous, easily enough to blow open the hatch covers. But when the flames died down, there was no fire damage, no scorching, no soot on the paper cubes, nothing, no heat damage. Dr. Sella explained.
What we created was a pressure wave type of explosion. There was a spectacular wave of flame, but behind it was relatively cool air. So no soot was left behind, and there was no burning or scorching.
So in other words, you could have a terrifying explosion, one that would make any captain or rational human being think his ship was about to become an inferno, without, crazy enough, leaving any physical evidence behind. So this literally sounds like a Hollywood special effect.
It's probably become one, that's for sure. So imagine you're Captain Briggs. You're below deck, maybe having breakfast with your wife and your daughter, and suddenly there's a massive from the cargo hold. A wall of flame shoots up through the hatch. The hatches themselves blow up, and you're sitting on top of 1,700 barrels of alcohol.
I have to interrupt you.
What?
It's 1,701.
Truth.
They've made that very clear.
Truth. But what's not one is the 2-year-old daughter. And what do? You get everyone into the lifeboat immediately. You don't wait around to see if there's going to be a second explosion. You get your family to safety.
Okay. We got our next one up for discussion.
All right, let's go.
Okay, theory 2.
This is the clogged pump.
Sounds gross.
Not like the toilet variety, though that probably would have been darkly hilarious. Documentary filmmaker Anne McGregor spent years investigating the Mary Celeste case for the Smithsonian Channel documentary. Her research uncovered a perfect storm of problems that could explain the abandonment. So, first, the faulty chronometer. Back to that damn thing. So, Briggs thought he was about 120 miles east of where he actually was, as we mentioned. He'd been expecting to see land for days, and he saw nothing but open water. So, second, the Mary Celeste had previously been used to transport coal. Coal dust is notorious for clogging ships' pumps.
Eesh.
And remember that one pump that was found disassembled on the deck?
Oh, shoot. Forgot about that.
Yeah, like one of my projects. Someone had been trying to fix it. So if your pump is clogged, you can't accurately measure how much water is in your hull. And if you're already stressed about being lost at sea, if you're already worried about the weather, a malfunctioning pump might tip you into panic. So the sounding rod was found on the deck. Briggs had clearly been checking the water level manually. But with the cargo hold packed tight with all those barrels, 1,701 of them, a visual inspection would have been nearly impossible. So he was flying blind. Ocular pat down, total fail. So McGregor's theory, Briggs, lost at sea with a malfunctioning chronometer, unable to accurately measure water in his hull, finally spots what he thinks is land on November 25th. He makes a call. Everyone into the lifeboat. They'll row to shore and figure out the ship situation later. But the land he saw was still miles away. And then something goes wrong. The line connecting the lifeboat to the Mary Celeste broke or was cut in a moment of panic, and the ship, with sails still partially set, simply sails away from them. Again, I like to call this the Wilson theory.
We'll add that to the list. That's actually just a new theory that we should introduce to the world.
Yeah, take that, Smithsonian. Think you're better than us.
It was a Massachusetts situation, so great accent. So that brings us to theory 3, the seaquake. And this one's pretty fascinating. A sea captain named David Williams proposed that the Mary Celeste was struck by a seaquake, which is an underwater earthquake if you couldn't figure that out. The Azores sit on a geologically active area, and underwater earthquakes aren't uncommon there. And when a seaquake hits a wooden ship, it's absolutely terrifying. The hull would vibrate violently. The timbers would thunder and groan. It would feel like the ship was being shaken apart from below. So the vibration could have knocked the compass out of its binnacle, which is exactly what happened. It could have shaken those red oak barrels hard enough to spill their contents into the bilge, creating an explosion risk. There's actually a documented case from 1885, just 13 years after the Mary Celeste actually, off a ship called the Alhama of Arundel, being abandoned during a violent seaquake near the Azores. The crew thought the ship was breaking apart. It wasn't, but they didn't know that. So for a religious man like Briggs, a seaquake might have felt like Judgment Day. The deep rumbling from below, the violent shaking, combined with the smell of alcohol fumes and maybe a flash of flame, he would have ordered immediate evacuation.
So whatever the cause of the abandonment, right? Explosion, seaquake, pump malfunction, aliens, ghosts,
Aliens,
krakens,
squids,
Drunk pirates?
totally.
Drunk crew members? The end result was the same. 10 people in one small lifeboat in the North Atlantic in late November. The most likely scenario is they tied a line to the Mary Celeste and trailed behind at a safe distance, waiting to see if the ship would explode or sink. This sounds very reasonable. When it didn't, they planned on reboarding, but something went wrong. The line probably parted. A sudden gust of wind caught the Mary Celeste sails, and the ship, the only thing standing between 10 people in the vast Atlantic, just sailed away from them. So they were equipped with navigational instruments. They knew roughly where they were. But a small lifeboat in the open ocean in winter weather, I mean, there's more than fake terrors on the water. So the North Atlantic is unforgiving. Hypothermia, exposure, storms. The lifeboat was never found. No bodies ever washed up ashore. No wreckage was ever identified. Again, the North Atlantic is huge. This is not unexpected.
And Benjamin Briggs, Sarah Briggs, little Sophia Briggs, Albert Richardson, Andrew Gilling, Edward Head, Volkert Lawrenson, Boz Lawrenson, Ariane Martins, and Gottlieb Gondeschall, 10 souls, were lost to the Atlantic. In Marion, Massachusetts, a cenotaph stands in the Evergreen Cemetery. It reads, Captain Benjamin S. Briggs, born April 24th, 1835. Sarah E. Cobb, his wife, born April 20th, 1841. Sophia M., their daughter, born October 31st, 1870. Lost in the brig Mary Celeste, November 1872.
No graves, just a monument to the missing.
The Mary Celeste story might have faded into maritime obscurity if not for a young English doctor who decided to try his hand at fiction.
Arthur Conan Doyle, of Sherlock Holmes fame, was 25 years old in 1884 when Cornhill magazine published his story, J. Habakkuk Jepson's Statement. It was printed anonymously, and it was presented so convincingly that many readers thought it was a factual account from actual survivors.
Doyle changed nearly everything. He spelt the ship's name Mary Celeste, and he changed Captain Briggs' name. He invented a revenge plot involving a former enslaved person who murdered the passengers.
All right, so obviously none of it was true, but it obviously captured the public imagination in ways that, as we know, actual facts never can.
Don't understand how, because squids.
Well, people want mystery. They want intrigue. Doyle gave them a very dramatic narrative. You have to remember, soap operas did not exist back then. This was like Charles Dickens novels and Death and Mayhem.
And that misspelling, Marie instead of Mary, stuck. To this day, people still use the wrong name, which is just offensive.
Like GIF. So the success of Doyle stories obviously spawned decades of imitations. So magazine articles with fake survivor accounts. There was elaborate hoaxes claiming to reveal the truth. So there's a 1935 Hammer horror film starring Bela Lugosi, and he's a deranged murderer sailor.
Ooh.
Yeah, Dracula. So the Mary Celeste had now gone full 7 degrees of separation with Dracula.
Love it.
And with that, each new telling adds new embellishments, right? So now there's warm food on the table. There's a happy-eaten breakfast. There's child blocks arranged in mid-play. The legend grew with each retelling.
Meanwhile, the actual Mary Celeste herself continued sailing, now with a reputation as a cruise ship. So she changed hands frequently. Sailors were reluctant to crew on her.
That would be.
Yeah, the red flags started mounting that even a sailor wouldn't dip his toes in her.
Hey, yo.
Yeah, let that sink in. In 1879, her captain, Edgar Tuthill, died at sea, and that made him the third captain to die prematurely aboard the ship that had started life as the Amazon.
All right, so finally in 1885, there's another captain named Gilman Parker. He had had enough. This ship was losing money. No one wanted to sail on a cursed ship, so he came up with a game plan.
Okay.
So now, before I tell you this plan...
Was it just change the name?
Well, before I tell you, I'm sure you can already tell it's going to go swimmingly. So Parker loaded the Mary Celeste with worthless cargo. He insured it for $30,000, which is about $1 million today. So he has a brilliant plan of deliberately sailing her into the Rochelle Reef off a coast of Haiti. So insurance fraud. That was his idea. Insurance fraud. So the curse of the Mary Celeste had now driven the final captain to crime.
Also was a theory before.
Well, I mean, honestly, at some point, it just reality became too unbelievable for fiction.
Okay, but Parker was caught almost immediately.
Yeah, sounds like it was pretty
obvi. Investigators discovered the cargo was worthless and the grounding was intentional. Deliberately wrecking a ship called barratry was a capital offense, and Parker faced execution, which, by the way, in football terms, intentional grounding is a big no-no, and they are very lucky that you don't face execution for that. The fans might be pissed though. Anyway, due to legal technicalities, he was acquitted, but his reputation absolutely destroyed. He died in poverty just 3 months later, and one of his co-conspirators went mad. Another killed himself. This is all really, really light stuff. So thank you for listening to that. As one historian noted, if the court of man could not punish these men, the curse that had deviled the ship since her first skipper died on her maiden voyage reached beyond the vessel's watery grave and exacted its own terrible retribution. Dang.
I know, that's cold-blooded. So the Mary Celeste, do you know, was just left to rot on the reef of Haiti.
I would. Just let it be.
I think I would too, because they made up all these stories about how they found it, but I don't even think they need to make up any stories to make this ridiculously terrifying.
Yeah.
Every person who's touched the ship has either gone into financial ruin or has died, sometimes very weird and terrible deaths. So it was left to rot off the reef of Haiti. In 2001, author and marine adventurer Clive Cussler claims to have found her remains. Now, later analysis showed that the wood he recovered was from a different ship entirely. I will no longer make any wood-based jokes.
I mean, I was thinking it before you even said it. Okay. So the actual wreckage has never been conclusively located. And like her crew, the Mary Celeste simply disappeared. So 152 years later, what do we actually know? We know the abandonment was deliberate and orderly. The lifeboat was properly deployed. Navigation instruments were taken. This wasn't a sudden catastrophe that swept people overboard. We know Captain Briggs was an experienced, cautious, rational man, and he wouldn't have evacuated his ship with his wife and baby daughter aboard unless he genuinely believed it was the safest option. We know something happened on or around November 25th that made abandonment seem necessary. So whether it was an alcohol vapor explosion, a sea quake, a clogged pump creating false readings, or some combination of factors, aliens, something convinced Briggs his ship was in imminent danger. And we know the lifeboat and its 10 occupants were lost to the Atlantic, because no trace has ever been found.
So with the things that we do know, here's the things we don't know and may never know. What specifically triggered the evacuation? Was there actually an explosion or just a fear of one? Did a seaquake shake the ship? Did multiple factors combine into this perfect storm of really, really bad decisions? What happened to the lifeboat? Did the line break or did someone cut it in panic? How long did they survive? Did they try to row for the Azores? Did a storm take them? And the question that haunts this whole case was Captain Briggs right or wrong? If he had stayed aboard, would everyone have been fine? Or would the Mary Celeste have exploded 10 seconds later? We'll never know. What happens in the Atlantic stays in the Atlantic?
Well, what we can say is this. Benjamin Briggs was not a foolish man. He didn't panic without reason. Something happened on that ship. Something terrifying enough to make an experienced captain put his wife and baby into a small boat in the middle of the ocean. And whatever it was, it proved to be the wrong call. The ship that seemed so dangerous, well, she sailed for another 800 miles without a single person on board. The lifeboat that seemed so safe, it vanished without a trace. It's a tragedy wrapped in a mystery. And after 152 years, it still captures our imagination. The ghost ship Mary Celeste, the most famous abandoned vessel in maritime history, and the 10 souls who walked off her deck and into eternity. That's our show for today. Thanks for sailing these mysterious waters with us. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who loves a good unsolved mystery.
So until next time, I'm Gabriel.
And I'm Kathryn. So what did we learn today?
We learned that there is booze that even your most ardent 11 a.m. Ginny grandma won't drink. That you can, in fact, own your own chronometer. That you can kind of sail a boat by just jumping off and letting ghosts take the wheel. And that running from your problems or large explosions is never the right idea. And this has been Mugshot Mysteries.
Sneaky footsteps in the night, clues that vanish out of sight. Grab your hat and magnifying glass. We'll talk this case and have a blast. Mugshot Mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite the show. Who did it? Tune in to know. Stolen gem, a secret note, a shady figure in a trench coat. The clock is ticking, the plot gets thick. We'll crack this puzzle quick as a click. Mugshot Mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists and turns that never fail. Laughs and chills, it's quite crazy maze. Fun and thrills wrapped in crime. You'll love it every single time. Mugshot Mysteries, we're on the trail. Twists